We are back. This session is called Intuitive Living. And I will just say that when you do not think of yourself as the God idea will be yourself. In other words, when I am man disclosing the infinitude of good, capital G, the God idea, in being mind, the I, us consciousness, I cannot possibly behold something which is not an aspect of my own divinity, since I am the beholding that reconciles the beholder and the beheld as one. As conscious identity, I perform deeds of righteousness. I shall be compassionate and kind because I can't help myself. At the same time, I won't see myself as someone kind or loving. I'll be intelligent, keen, discerning because I am being mind, not an I thinking as mind. We may speak of living consciously as mind, but what we mean is that living consciously as mind is mind living. There is no I and mind. Mind is the I. The understanding that all conscious experience is mind, the universal unconscious, disposes of the theory of two minds and the irrational human behavior incidental to that theory. This understanding also does away with the theory that good, capital G, is a commodity to be purchased by good deeds. Human behavior is rational, although unpredictable, when one's divinity is lived self-consciously. A friend of mine, well disciplined in the facts of science, started off on a day's holiday. He'd not gone very far before his car broke down. At one time, he might have done mental work in an attempt to start the car so he could continue on his way as planned. In the science dimension, he recognized that principle is operating, whether the car ran or didn't run. After several attempts to start the car, he left it, thinking as he walked to a telephone, perhaps love has something better in store for me today than my original plan. Later, he joined his friends, and a day much more enjoyable than he could have imagined evolved. And that's all from Christian Science Re-Explored by Margaret Laird, pages 115 and 116. Welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Fine, thanks.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So
the key of all that you read is to not think of yourself.
Right. Take no thought.
That's right. And you're not something that takes thought, but you are the thought present being.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's something about intuitive living. There's things that you know. And when you're present and you are looking or thinking from, there's things that occur to you. You get a hit of something and and we either listen or we disregard it. And oftentimes I find that when I disregard it, I kick myself later because I knew better.
Because your hunch was intuitive knowing without planning, and it was right on.
Right.
And you didn't pick up on that.
Correct. So that's what, when I think about intuition, when I think about intuitive self-sense, when I think about, what is that? I'm interested in tuning in to that, because it's like when things don't go the way we want them to go, we're thinking, well, why me, oh Lord? Why does this keep happening to me? And yet, when we look, nothing happens without our consent, either consciously or unconsciously. And we know, we just didn't pay attention. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe.
All right. Well, what do you have to say? You want to dive into this and go through it, or do you have more to say? And if any of you have any comments or anything like that, type those in. Let's get a conversation started about intuition, about this intuitive self-sense that's right there for each of us in our own living to explore and to walk forward with.
Yep. Actually, a lot of your living could be loosened up by just the attitude of let's talk, because you're in a transaction with your experience.
Yeah.
So let's just talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And what might that look like?
Yeah.
But what might it look like when you say
Right
let's
now,
talk?
it looks like we're engaged with the subject, intuitive living.
Right.
And intuitive talking is really, really great stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Because,
the way that I look at that is, when you're in a conversation, you're exploring ideas. The ideas that arise in the conversation, neither one could have predicted or have ready to go. They just arose in the conversation right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Even when you have a subject, when you can loosen up and just talk about it from within yourself, the idea is coming to you as you give it attention.
Right.
Then you end up with something beyond and different than you might have otherwise outlined for yourself.
Right.
And there's a lot of freedom in that. And there's an opportunity really to be creative and innovative instead of following the precise line of planning.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. So, as we explore this, we're looking at Christian Science Re-Explored by Margaret Laird. On page 116, she wrote, "Every incident of daily life identifies principle."
Yep,
And this is the God idea experienced as oneself.
that's right. And it's every incident. There's no such thing as something that shouldn't have happened. There's no such thing of no purpose of things. Everything that occurs, every single thing has purpose and meaning or it wouldn't exist.
Right. So it's not like, well, I wouldn't do that again. I should never have made that choice.
Yeah. It's, oh, well, look what this uncovered. Look what
Right.
opened up here. I
Right.
can't even say I wouldn't have done it without the knowledge that I have now that I didn't have before.
Right.
That's really an inaccurate statement.
Right.
I would be without, there'd be something that would be not present if I hadn't done exactly what I've done.
Right.
So we keep walking on.
Yep.
And it gives you a certain capacity to allow yourself to be free, to allow yourself to listen
Right.
and trust.
Okay. So then if we go on to Mary Baker Eddy in Science and Health on page 298, starting on line 13, she wrote, "Spiritual sense, contradicting the material senses, involves intuition, hope, faith, understanding, fruition, and reality."
Yep.
And so when I look at each of these items, I think intuition, okay, I got it. Hope, I always think hope is never a strategy. So I'm kind of like, all right, hope, all right.
What's everything in the future?
Yeah. And you're
Yeah. So
hoping maybe, and
it's not helpful right the moment.
right, correct. I get faith, understanding, fruition, reality, being present. I could add that in that list, couldn't I?
Yep.
Okay.
And being present is understanding and reality.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. I could get that. All right. And for those of you listening, what is it for you? So go ahead and enter that into the comments. Let's get this conversation going. This is stuff where, when we're living and life unfolds, all these things occur when they unfold. And yet, from our own intuitive self sense of ourselves, there are things we know, and we either listen or we don't listen. If you look, I think each of us sees that.
Yep.
So let me know what your thoughts are. All right. When the real is attained, joy is no longer a trembler, nor is hope a cheat. So, what does it mean by and nor is hope a cheat?
Well, living in the future doesn't ever happen. So you
Right.
feel cheated.
Oh, got it. Because it's always, well, once would
It's
hope
maybe.
once this works out, then I will X,
Yeah,
Y.
and if, then.
Right. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So yeah, that's funny. Hope is a cheat. Love it. So, but when the real is attained, which is right now present, showing up with my willingness and acknowledgement, things just flow right on.
Yep.
Okay. And in Mind is the Athlete on page 87, you said it like this. You said, when you're able to allow it, language, to be with zero attention from you, it will cease to exist. And that's the flow that we're talking about, right?
It will cease to exist for you.
Right. But that's the flow that we're talking about. Things just flow rather
Right.
than feel stuck.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, the thing about it is language is always shifting.
Yep.
It's a point of view right now, right now, right now, right now, like snapping your fingers. It
Yep.
shifts, it shifts, it changes, it shifts, but it's always it's always right now. You
Yeah.
can't live it back then. You can't live it up front with hope or regret or any of that stuff. You have to be present now.
Right.
That's all you've got to work with is now.
Yeah.
We kid ourselves when we think, oh, I can do it tomorrow. No, you can't do what you would do right now tomorrow. Tomorrow will never be there. It'll always be now that you're doing anything.
Right.
No action takes place tomorrow or yesterday.
Right. Right. Yes. The challenge arises when a difficulty confronts you. So, anytime a difficulty confronts us, it's something different than what we were expecting. Could that be, is that accurate, or is we could see it coming maybe? I don't know, but.
You might very well see it coming. You could dread it.
Right.
Not recognizing that you're being present now has no problem.
Right.
If you can be present now, there is no problem. Dread is always something from hope.
Right.
Out there somewhere, and it's going to get you if you're not good.
Right. Right. So the challenge arises when a difficulty confronts you, and the difficulty is our perception of whatever is confronting us.
Yeah, and what confronts you is the suggestion that you live external to your mind and that there are other things, other places, other people out there somewhere, when actually nothing is out there when you're conscious. It's always consciousness present that has you be at all.
Right. And mind present, not your mind like here, but mind, the being itself.
Universal intelligence.
Right. That constitutes who we are.
And if I am the world I walk through, I'm the universal intelligence. And if I think that it's in Betty, I've lost my perspective.
Right. Because it's not a brain function.
Reality.
Right. Because when we talk about mind, we're not talking about brain function.
Right.
We're talking about universal consciousness. And
Yeah.
this happens to be the piece that I got on the board. Yeah. It's like the piece I have on the board right now of life.
Well, all right.
Can you say that, or would you say it differently? You'd probably say it differently. I mean, is it accurate?
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm for. I'm for accuracy.
Yep.
All right. So in Christian Science Re-Explored on page 116, without the discipline of science, we complain. Why me, O Lord?
Yeah. What is it about the discipline of science that eliminates that?
The oneness of being, responsibility for the world. I am the world I walk through.
Exactly. Right on.
So Sandy Jackson says, let's see if I can show this. Sandy Jackson says, is intuition actually allowing and acknowledging one thing going on and the listening and willingness to stand at zero without judgment and or complaint?
That would certainly be the look of it, although it's ever present, and whatever it's looking like is still intuition actually present.
Okay.
Whether I
Very
recognize it or not, intuition is the intuitive knowing that constitutes my being. So it's always present. But am I listening? Am I present with myself? Or am I thinking that there's a world out there separate from me that I have to communicate with?
right. And that I have to manipulate around and figure out and strategize.
You see, it's the discipline of science that eliminates the need to complain
Right.
because I recognize I am it.
Right.
Why fuss with it? Leave it alone.
Right.
Keep going.
I remember what comes up for me right now is I remember that, when we were doing different courses and whatnot, there was one where they said, just go outside and yell at the stars and see how much they move for your complaints.
Yep.
And they don't.
They didn't hear it. And
Yeah.
even if they did, they didn't move, not 1
Yeah.
inch.
Exactly. So, yeah.
It's like
And
perfection present, and it doesn't move 1 inch one way or the other. You can scream and holler, or you can sit and do nothing. Reality is still present, regardless.
right. Or you can get curious and be willing and walk right on.
That's right.
So we're unhappy when an incident confronts us that doesn't conform to our belief of good.
Yep. And the belief of good is no good. A belief of anything is just a belief. There's no fact there.
Right. Right. I love that. Belief of good is no good. There's no good there. Because it's just a belief. There's no belief.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Good is present, and your belief has nothing to do with it.
Right. And it's always present, whether you agree with it or not.
Or whether you see it or not.
Right. Right. That's the whole saying, you're happy whether you know it or not.
Yeah, Margaret used to say that.
Yeah. And in Science and Health on page 85, line 7, Mary Baker Eddy wrote, such intuitions reveal whatever constitutes and perpetuates harmony, enabling one to do good but not evil.
The intuition reveals that.
Yeah.
So listen.
Yeah. And when we don't listen, when we override it, usually
we're paying attention to the view instead of the fact.
Right. But when we get present, yeah, but when we get present, we're like, oh yeah, I had a feeling about that. I didn't listen.
Or I began listening. I wish I'd thought of it sooner.
Right. Exactly. The Samaritan woman said, come see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ?
Yep. Margaret used to say, pay attention to your seeing. And she says, and this Samaritan woman said, come see a man. Well, the only man you can see is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And in Mind is the Athlete on page 87, you wrote, the attempt to enhance, embrace, or relinquish form from within the paradox of language will always fall short of fulfillment.
Yes. Nothing originates in the language realm. It's
right.
Always a point of view of something already present.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Trying to make language look a certain way is a form of resistance, which has the unsatisfying experience persist. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think that's pretty awful.
Okay, very good.
Except you could say it slower.
Okay, I'll read it.
Trying to make language look a certain way. Trying to get
Right.
it to fit your pictures, to fit into your concept of something.
Mm-hmm.
Way off base.
Right.
Reality has no concept to fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all there is.
Yeah. And all of that going on, trying to do that, all the effort and struggle to get that all worked out is a form of resistance.
It's true.
All the attempt at controlling and all of that stuff is a form of resistance, which then just has the unsatisfying experience persists. And that's
right.
that which we resist persists.
That's right.
And then we feel stuck.
You know why you feel that way?
Why?
Because there's no freedom in that.
Right. Because you feel stuck. There's no freedom in stuckness.
There's no freedom in playing around with language.
Right. Right. Yeah. Stop playing in language. All right. There's the tidbit for the day. All right. So, in Christian Science Re-Explored again with Margaret, she wrote, the operation of principle was not affected by the car running or not running. And that's what we talked about earlier. The operation of principle is not affected by something fitting your pictures or not fitting your pictures.
By what you observe.
Right.
Not affected by anything you're observing.
Right.
Because it's all language.
Yep.
And it's not causative.
Right.
It's just a point of view.
Yeah. Yep. And the human behavior was perfectly rational in the light of science. So when you're clear and present, your actions are completely and perfectly rational in the light of science. It's the human footsteps. Is that what this is saying?
Yeah, there's no complaint.
Yeah.
All is well when you allow it to be.
Right.
When you involve yourself with it, you're stuck because you have no vision.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with language.
Yeah. Okay. I could get that. All right. Again, I'll ask you guys, what do you think? What's going on? Where are you with this conversation? Let's put it in the comments. Get involved. Have some action happening. All right. Just put that in the comments. We'll bring it into the conversation. So in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on 581 line 4 said, angels are God's thoughts passing to man. Spiritual intuitions, pure and perfect.
Man is the expression of God's being. With that in mind, angels are God's thoughts. In other words, man is the angel, not the human being picture, the language picture, but the being that's present that allows that picture to occur. That being is the expression of God being.
Mm-hmm.
We call it man.
Mm-hmm.
We call it two-legged animal. We don't call it human being. We call it man. And man is the expression of God's being.
Right. Right. So that's, you could say that is where intuition, when you have that hit, that knowing, you could say it's that right there.
And it's an inner knowing that doesn't come up by struggle. It's just present.
Right. Right. It's just right there. And you do know. So when you ask yourself, what should I do? When you ask, well, what should I do? You do know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. If you listen, what to do is right there. The inspiration of goodness, purity, and immortality counteract all evil, sensuality, and mortality.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about the stuff that you observe if you're present to inspiration and intuitive presence.
Right. That's right. And Sandy wrote, each individual makes his own what is right out of his intuitive knowledge that right is a life principle lived self consciously as mind, of which the existential experience is identity.
Yeah. And that's not a formula. It's each individual intuiting his own experience of being. You can't
Mm-hmm.
blame it on circumstances or other people or when you went here, there, or somewhere else. Can't blame
Right.
it on yourself. Actually, the intuition of reality is the presence calling itself Sandy
Mm-hmm.
or Kim.
Right. And that was taken, I believe, from government on page government is self-government on page 39, lines 2 through 5.
Yep.
And then she said, and then she's just acknowledging that was a quote.
Yep.
Very good. Okay. The inspiration of goodness, purity, and immortality counteract all evil, sensuality, and mortality. When you listen to your intuition and what's going on there, that is absolutely the perfect step, next step. It's listen to that.
You, I really would like you to get the distinction that you're not a listener, you are the listening
Mm,
that is
right.
inspired.
Right. Okay.
It's a distinction that's helpful.
Okay. So, yeah, okay, I get it. And in Mind is the Athlete on page 87, you wrote, being consciously aware is the starting point where the experience of fulfillment lives.
Good statement.
Is that the same thing as saying this is it and I'm satisfied?
Could be. But it's the starting point. It's right at the outset.
Right. It's a constant, it's a being.
Conscious awareness is the starting point of being itself being,
Okay.
not a human effort.
Right. Right. Okay.
Conscious awareness is you being um, discerning of
Right.
what's
Right.
yeah,
Okay. All right. And joy, aliveness, and fulfillment are possible only when conscious awareness is present.
right on.
Anything more you want to say about that?
Well, I like to turn statements like that around and realize that when I have the experience of being really sharp and on my toes, joyous and happy, that is the presence, that is the awareness of reality.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it is.
not Betty being happy. That's a presence really much greater than anything Betty could create.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I want to also reiterate that we're sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. Um, and established in 1959 as the Margaret Laird Foundation, researching, exploring, living, and teaching the science of being and the causal nature of consciousness. You can visit the website at www.scientificmetaphysics.org. And we would appreciate any donations to support our live streams. You can go make them. The URL is right up in the corner. And you can make any donations. That would be great. And if you've loved this conversation, there's 186 other conversations you can go listen to out on our channel. Hit the like button and give us a thumbs up. It helps spread the word to other people that might actually enjoy this content as well. So you can help us do that by that as well. So at this point, if there's no questions and no further comments, that's all we've got for today. We'll be back, if not next week, the week after. So right now you can count on about two episodes a month, and maybe there will be more, but we'll see. In the meantime, go listen to one of the episodes you haven't heard yet. All right. With that, I would say thank you so much for being here. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart if you're on Facebook, and to help us spread the word. And we shall see you next time.